Tom, is it tinnitus implicated more with noise-induced hearing loss than other losses?
I think you see it more is because of the exposure, and especially if the exposure was from a real short-term but high-level noise. You tend to see a lot of tinnitus associated with that. But it goes hand in hand. I mean, about half of the people or more with hearing loss have tinnitus, and if you have somebody with tinnitus, of course, the chances are they will have the hearing loss associated with it. I think initially most people aren't quite sure what that is, as all of us are. You start hearing noises and you realize there's no noise, and that's sort of the definition of tinnitus. It's a phantom sound when you don't have a signal there. And so, yeah, I think it becomes a real challenge because they think there's probably something physically wrong with them, and I think that's the fear is that because of that fear, they don't seek help. Whether it's ENT, audiologist, dispenser, they just think, I better not go somewhere because I'm going to find out something bad. And I think once they find out there's nothing bad, then of course, okay, now what can I do? And I think that's where they finally end up in our offices to say, okay, now that I know there's nothing medically wrong with me, now what can I do to help with this tinnitus problem?
And hyperacusis can be a component of it as well?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Hyperacusis is this hypersensitivity to loud sounds, and maybe even not loud sounds, 80 or 90 dB. And for some of those folks, this would really be a bad place, because once they get into that loud environment, their tinnitus just starts to roar, and it's in many cases debilitating. I mean, you just can't function. So hyperacusis is fortunately a much smaller percentage of those patients with tinnitus, but it's a real troubling part of tinnitus.
Right. What do you generally recommend for tinnitus patients? I know there's amplification options, and what types of options do you have?
There's both amplification, if that helps in many cases for low-level tinnitus, that can be a help, or you can look for some kind of a therapy noise, as we were calling it, maskers, but therapy noise seems to be a nicer term than masking, because there's a variety of approaches there, but I think it depends on the patient.
What do you guys generally do for tinnitus?
I think that one of the most important things with tinnitus patients is counseling them, because there is a loop of them focusing on it and it making it worse. So I think that counseling in terms of where it's coming from, the autonomic nervous system, and what can happen when they pay attention to it. The more they get stressed out over it, the worse it gets. And so counseling definitely, for me, is an important part besides amplification. And there are patients that even if we fit them with hearing aids that have tinnitus programs, that we have to send them to tinnitus retraining therapy. Because they're on the verge of suicide. Some people, it's gotten so bad.
I have to say that of all of the calls that I get from consumers or emails, they're the most desperate ones, are the ones who have this chronic tinnitus that they can't do anything about, and they're desperate to have something done about it.
I like to fit the high-end products that have the broadest frequency response, and I know with those, lots of times you can go out. There's been a lot of research done on trying to stimulate the nerves to help counteract the actual tinnitus. And so what I will do is, I like to fit multi-memory. You guys got that already. I will take one of the memories and try to really push some stimulation out there, and counsel, and say, this is, you don't need to stay in this all the time, but I'd like you to try being in this a few hours a day, even an hour at a time. If it drives you nuts, get back out of it, go to your other memories, but try to stimulate those nerves, and let's see if we can get a handle on the tinnitus. And by doing that, it also works the patient, that they're going, okay, it's there, I know it's there, maybe this will help. And it gives them a positive attitude towards it. And then you can try to really sink down in. There's a product that's out that a company came out with that is actually, you can program now for the tinnitus, okay? And that's very helpful. I've used a few of those, and with some good success after stumbling through a little bit. But so I like to go out there and do that. I've also tell people, in the olden days, to control tinnitus. You know, put a radio on in your house, you know, different things, just even low, even so you're not paying attention, to offset what's going on in your head.
What I like to, there's a product that's out that you can do multiple tinnitus noises. So you can have multiple memories, because sometimes people's tinnitus changes.
Yes.
Right.
You know, and so it helps to match their sound to be more comfortable for
And
the
it makes them
masking.
feel like they've got some control. A lot
Right.
of it's, you know, have some control of what's going on in your head.
Right.
Yeah, it's in tinnitus retraining therapy. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, cognitive and
Right.
that, but I think counseling, no matter which approach you're going to take,
Yep.
counseling is the key. First, as I said earlier, I mean, you have to understand this isn't a physical thing. There's nothing really wrong with you. Yes, you have this noise, so that's wrong. You shouldn't have the noise, but I think once they recognize that, then to defocus is really the key. Is
Yep.
Right.
just to get the
Yep.
defocus, whether that's with amplification, whether it's with a therapy noise or a masker, whichever you want to call it.
Right.
To get them to sort of defocus is the first sort of step, because for years they probably did nothing but focus on that noise,
Right.
and it becomes, it's a challenge. I mean, everybody has it from time to time.
But there are more and more devices, it seems like, that the FDA or others are giving approval to. Can you actually pinpoint, turn it off, or, you know, they're talking about these magnetic pulses and all this stuff. I think people are really looking for a magic bullet. There's really not a magic bullet, though, is there?
No, I think that's the issue with everything, of course. You know, I mean,
Right.
we're all hoping for hair cell regeneration. So
Right.
I hope it's after I retire. Or we all retire. Not just me, all of us.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think you're right. There are a number of those kind of devices that are out there using a variety of magnetic pulses and lots of things. And
Right.
I think it's like anything else. You need to find what works. You know, I think you're right. A radio and some of the download a couple of things that sound like your tinnitus to your MP3 player, and you know, and listen to that throughout the day from time to time. And for some patients, that's all they really need, especially if they have normal hearing. I mean,
Right.
those are the real challenge, I think, are the normal hearing
Yes.
patients, because there you can't use amplification to mask low-level tinnitus. I mean, they have normal hearing, so if you put a hearing aid on them, then it's too loud, and so it's a real challenge. And those are the ones the FDA looks at the most. You know, we have devices, and you can get approval for a device that's a combination device relatively quickly from the FDA. You know, several months, because they're Class 2 devices. They're one higher than hearing aids. But if you have one that's intended for normal hearing individuals with a therapy noise, they're very critical, because, especially the output levels.
Right.
Because what we don't want to do is take somebody with normal hearing, put
Give
that
them
device on to fix their hearing, give them a hearing loss,
Create a
and now they
problem.
need
Yeah.
right. So you fix
Yeah.
one problem and create another.
Yeah, create
You're
another
exactly
problem.
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So